Tonight, the province is cracking down on social gatherings.
There's going to be some severe fines for people who want to ignore the regulations and the guidelines, so it's going to be severe.
As the numbers rise, the limits will drop. Ford vows to fight the second wave with stricter measures, and concern is growing for not one, but two elderly men who've gone missing in Rexdale just one day apart. Also,
oh, he's stunned! Wow!
one young boy's heroes show up for a very special birthday surprise. Good evening, I'm Marivel Tarouk. Ontario reported its highest total of new cases since early June. The province has 315 cases today, and with a clear upward trend in new COVID-19 case numbers, the Premier announced today that lower limits on gathering sizes are coming, and he says steps are being taken to accommodate the growing demand for testing. Lorenda Redekop has the story.
Huge lineups, hours long. Many are young people. More than 200 people under 40 tested positive in the past day. Some came prepared. This man needs a test to accompany his wife to an appointment.
I spent all day yesterday, and I came here yesterday late afternoon, saw the bloody lineup, and I knew I had to be here really early.
Please do not crowd the tent, please.
The security guard is hearing some colorful language.
Oh, well, I can't repeat it. I would love to repeat it, but personally I can't repeat it. But there's a lot of angry people. A lot of people are upset, anxious, worried, and frightened.
And more lineup horror stories from the Ottawa and London area in question period.
Imagine waiting 4 to 6 hours in line with your kids outside without washrooms.
Rowan and Kimberly are currently in an 8-hour lineup. The first person for that lineup, Rowan tells me, arrived at 4:30 this morning.
The Premier says help is coming, with testing on the way at places like pharmacies for people with no symptoms, possibly in days.
All the major retailers in this country have stepped up. They're ready, and they're ready to go. So it's going to be very soon.
Plus, a plan to stop the rise in cases. Many officials say are connected to private gatherings. The Premier is promising fines.
There's going to be some severe fines for people who want to ignore the regulations and the guidelines, so it's going to be severe. They're going to be the highest in the country.
Toronto's mayor supports the idea.
The message doesn't seem to have reached some people, and sometimes the way you have to have a message reach people is by a severe consequence for their actions.
Toronto's medical officer of health says her team is tracking 4 separate weddings that have infected 22 people and is seeing more cases at bars and restaurants. More commonly, cases spread among staff. The Premier's announcement, cracking down on large gatherings, could be coming as soon as tomorrow. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
More than 2/3 of Ontario's new COVID-19 cases today were young adults, and evidence suggests they are catching the virus through social gatherings. Lauren Pelly explains.
37-year-old Nada Forbes has spent much of the past 6 months here at her Oakville home, slowly recovering from COVID-19.
My symptoms started with chest pain. I never had a fever. I never had a cough.
That was back in March. Her respiratory and GI symptoms kept lingering.
You can get a moderate case or a mild case that goes on and on and on and leaves lasting damage.
Her cautionary tale comes as people under 40 now make up a majority of Ontario's cases. So how are young, healthy adults catching and spreading this virus?
Public health officials across the province say it's happening through gatherings, big and small. Crowded weddings and bars on one end of the spectrum, and smaller dinner parties and family outings on the other.
We know of a big family gathering where there was very little mask wearing and too much close contact.
Toronto's top doctor says it led to multiple infections.
People aren't immune from COVID-19 because you're related to them, or because they're your friend or your coworker, and they don't look sick.
Officials in Ottawa also shared the case study of a 10-person cottage trip. One person fell ill and later tested positive for the virus, along with 7 other cottagers. The virus spread quickly when people went back home, and in just over a week, more than 40 people were infected. Infectious disease experts say social young adults should strive to make any activity a little bit safer.
Can you do it outside? Can you spread apart? Can you have fewer numbers? If you're in an indoor venue, can you spread apart and put a mask on?
All good questions to avoid putting others and yourself at risk.
A lot of young people have this attitude that even if they get it, that they won't have a really bad case, and that's just not true.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Starting tomorrow, the TTC will be enforcing stricter measures when it comes to masks. Face coverings will now be mandatory for workers in all TTC shared spaces. This includes indoor and outdoor spaces. Employees must, or have been told rather, that they must wear masks while operating a TTC vehicle, even if they're behind the protective barrier of a streetcar or a bus. Another change for the city could be in store soon, this time to the Young Dundas area. The City of Toronto is proposing a public consultation to look at possibly changing the name of Dundas Street. A petition asking for the name change garnered thousands of signatures following the killing of George Floyd and discussions around racial injustice. Dundas Street is named after Scottish politician Henry Dundas, who is accused of being instrumental in delaying the abolition of the transatlantic slave trade. City staff recommended Toronto should host public consultations about changing the name and report to council early next year. Well, the pandemic brought together an unlikely friendship, a toddler and some city workers. When the young boy turned 3, his new friends gave him the most special birthday surprise he'll never forget. Angelina King has their story.
I look at Garbage Kid.
Like many kids, 3-year-old Wolfgang Reeder likes to pretend to be his favorite superheroes. For him, it's the neighborhood garbage man.
Here's your DJ.
That one's DJ.
And this one is Drew.
Wolfie got to know DJ and Drew while staying at home during the pandemic. Every Friday, he'd be waiting with his trucks ready to hang out with his new friends. They call themselves the Wolf Pack.
We took a liking to him and he took a liking to us. Wolfie's a really great kid. He's a really great kid. I like that kid, man.
Wolfie's friendship has turned into a bit of an obsession. His favorite toy, garbage trucks, lots of them. This year's Halloween costume, a garbage man. His dream career, a garbage loader. So when his 3rd birthday rolled around and the pandemic stopped him from having a big party, his parents said he could invite over 1 or 2 friends. His choice?
Without hesitation, he said Drew and DJ immediately. So we laughed it off, especially because it was a Wednesday, his birthday, and if these, they come around on a Friday, so if it were on a Friday, I'm sure we could have made it work.
But superheroes wouldn't miss such a special day. 4 garbage trucks showed up and Wolfie got to meet some new heroes. Although DJ was on holidays, Drew brought a gift from the Wolf Pack.
Since you're part of the pack, we got you something.
And what's even better than getting your very own gear?
Drew come play me with my garbage trucks.
Help the family, give the kids something to do during this lockdown and bring out the good spirits in times like this.
So what's it like to be a real-life superhero?
It means a lot because it's the children, They're the next generation to come. So seeing them enthusiastic about even just something as simple as, as what we do in our everyday lives brings meaning, shows the importance of everything that everyone does in society. So it makes me feel good.
And what's it like to be part of the Wolf Pack?
It's like seeing a bunch of 3-year-olds on the sidewalk. They take it right down to his level. They dance. They're not afraid to be silly. Really kind, gentle souls who are full of positive, good energy. These are role models, ideal role models.
And essential workers serving their community while still making time for their little buddy.
Thank you.
And one of their best superpowers, they'll be back next week. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
After all that warmth of today, change is coming in the forecast pattern. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. Stick with us, and I'll have all those details coming up after the break.
Started off a bit cool, but turned into a beautiful day with warm weather and sunny skies. Colette is here to tell us if it'll last. Colette.
Thanks, Marivelle. Well, boy, oh boy, what a great day that we had today, and now we have to go in for some changes. You knew it was going to happen, so this was kind of an anomaly, and we have this cold front coming through, so just basically some scattered showers. Really, it's the winds that you notice as they've been gusty, and those will continue to be gusty, but just changing direction. So the southwesterly flow pushed our temperatures up and now turning more northerly. So showers tonight, yes, a few, but windy conditions. Cooler air moves in, and it's really going to be the overnight temperatures you'll notice, although daytime highs will be below seasonal as well. High pressure trend, though, at least we can hold on to that. So sunny conditions that we'll be seeing kind of through the period as well. A lot of dry conditions in there. Daytime highs, though, today, Toronto right up to 25 degrees. Lots of readings. You see right across our board here in the 20s. So some really nice conditions there. But yes, as that front goes through, some of that cloud cover still hanging in there in the morning hours, but then that will be clearing out. So we get the sun even coming through the day on Thursday. And then with that ridge of high pressure, I always say this, that's that sinking air. It's very stable, and in fact, as we see our jet stream going into a more zonal pattern, plus what's happening here at the surface, we're likely to see some of that smoke from the west that's been having kind of an impact on our sunsets. That's going to be leaving us likely as well, though, as I've also been talking about, that's not been affecting our air quality because it's been in the upper atmosphere. So looking at your temperatures overnight for southwestern Ontario, again, those winds shifting direction. We'll see the showers moving out, and the clouds even will be clearing as well. Your temperatures, of course, tonight, they're not so cool. It's what's happening really with our daytime highs dropping from where they were today. Not really that bad into southwestern Ontario. It's not such an adjustment, but with some of those overnight lows once we get into Thursday night into Friday, and the lows as we go into the weekend is where the adjustment really comes. So overnight tonight for the GTA, some of that cloud cover hanging on into the early part of the day. Tomorrow afternoon it recedes and things are looking good, but those upper teens, daytime high for this time of year is more in the low 20s, and so we're not quite cutting it, although today we exceeded it. And look at what's going on then. I want to show you what some of those overnight temperatures are looking like. So Thursday into Friday, that's when we're dropping towards 5. And these are for Pearson, so what's really happening for Toronto. So I do want to say that towards Newmarket, for areas towards Aurora, for Markham, we're talking about readings closer to freezing. We're likely going to see some frost advisories, so we'll be telling you about those if those go into play. So that tender vegetation, those plants that you can protect or bring in, you're going to be wanting to think about that as we go into the weekend. Marivelle.
All right, not ready for single digits. Thanks, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
4 people are in custody after a high-speed chase that spanned from Cambridge to Mississauga this evening. 3 different police forces were involved over the 4-hour chase. It started just after 3 p.m. when multiple suspects allegedly entered a bank in Cambridge, took money, and fled. This led to a pursuit onto Highway 401. During the chase, an OPP cruiser was involved in a collision. One officer sustained a minor injury to her leg. Peel Police assisted OPP near Bristol Road and Credit View, and this is where a witness says the car crashed into a curb in the parking lot of St. Joseph's Secondary School. Police are not searching for any other suspects. Concern is growing for the safety of 2 elderly men who've gone missing in the last 2 days in the northwest part of the city. Chris Glover brings us the latest from the police command post near Etobicoke's K Park.
This picture was taken a few weeks ago.
This is the last photo of 83-year-old Chandulal Gandhi, missing since yesterday evening at 5 when he went for a walk.
Usually he doesn't go too far. If he goes for a walk, he goes for a few hours. But this has been a while, so we're just kind of worried.
Gandhi was last seen here yesterday. A day earlier and just 3 kilometers away, 98-year-old Leonard Simpson also vanished.
He's 98, He can't. He needs a bit of help every now and then to get around and stuff like that, So, yeah, it's worrisome, but he's very much loved around here.
Police say they found at least one person who saw Simpson after he was reported missing.
We're speaking with them now to find out a little bit more detail as to where they were last seen, where they were last headed, and what was the content of that conversation they had with that person.
There's a gentleman missing. As police search for both men, anxiety builds.
partially blind, so I'm afraid like he might not see, or if he gets attacked, or especially the stuff going on right now, you don't know what's going to happen.
Here's the stuff he's talking about. Gandhi and Simpson went missing at these spots, but police are already investigating 2 nearby stabbing murders, all of it happening in the last 9 days. Monday, September 7th, Rampreet Singh's body was found after police say the man experiencing homelessness was stabbed and left on the footpath of the West Humber Trail. Then this past Saturday, 58-year-old Mohammed Aslam Zafis was stabbed outside the Rexdale Mosque he volunteered at. Police have security footage of his killer, but so far the suspect's still on the loose.
The incidents occurred in very close proximity to each other.
Police are investigating whether there's a connection between the 2 murders, but so far have not made any connection between the murders and either of the missing elderly men. While police are not linking them, some in the Etobicoke neighborhood say they're on high alert.
You wonder if maybe there's a serial killer out there. I don't know.
All the Gandhi family knows is they desperately want their loved one back.
Please come home, and we're waiting for you to see you, and we love you. We love you.
And police are asking for your help as well, especially if you live in this area, to check your properties, check your backyards, and see if there's anything there that seems unusual, and contact police right away if you find anything. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
You heard Chris mention the stabbing death outside a mosque on the weekend. Today, the victim of that attack was laid to rest.
On Saturday night, the man who attacked Brother Mohammed didn't just attack him. They attacked our sense of innocence, our belief in our communities.
An outdoor service was held for Mohammed Aslam Zafis. The 58-year-old was stabbed to death Saturday night outside the International Muslims Organization on Rexdale Boulevard. Zafis was controlling access into the building to ensure compliance with public health regulations. Joining his family at the service were politicians and community representatives. Also on hand was a well-known police figure in the community.
I can tell you from a policing perspective, we are taking every measure possible. We have many resources involved in this investigation, and we will continue working 24 hours a day to find the perpetrator of this horrific crime.
Police have released surveillance video of the suspect. They're asking anyone who may have information to contact investigators. And dozens paid their respects at a drive-by visitation for 4 family members killed in a grisly shooting in Oshawa earlier this month. Participants were asked to offer a prayer or leave a condolence. 50-year-old Chris Traynor and his children, 20-year-old Bradley, 15-year-old Adelaide, and 11-year-old Joseph died in the early morning shooting at their home on September 4th. The children's mother survived the shooting. Her other son was not home at the time. Police have identified the shooter as a relative of the family. He died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. They're still investigating what led to the attack. A private funeral for the family is scheduled at an Ottawa church tomorrow morning. A Brampton man has been arrested in connection with a fatal collision that killed an 18-month-old boy. It happened about a month ago in a parking lot of an apartment building in Mississauga. The boy was with his mother when a delivery driver was exiting the lot, hitting him. He was transported to hospital by the driver, where he died a short time later. 25-year-old Arshdeep Othi has been charged with dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death. He is scheduled to appear in court in November. It's a plot twist worthy of a Hollywood crime thriller. The victim of a daytime shooting in Toronto's Corso Italia neighborhood this summer had escaped 2 earlier attempts on his life. CBC News obtained court documents revealing the victim even bribed a bounty hunter at one time to help fake his death. Natalie Collada has more.
As police this summer scoured Corso Italia for clues, it quickly became clear Farogh Sadats had been targeted.
One shooter was lying in wait on a side street, and when our victim got into his vehicle, the suspect shooter shot several rounds at our victim.
Nearly 2 months later, police are still investigating what happened here. But court documents obtained by CBC News revealed this wasn't the first time someone tried to kill him. or even the second. His murder here was the third known attempt on his life. In a police wiretap described in the documents, Sadats says he, in 2013, bribed a would-be assassin in the Caribbean with $500,000 worth of cocaine to stage Sadats' death, taking photos of Sadat lying in a ditch covered in fake blood. Police also recorded Sadat discussing a 2014 shooting in Woodbridge, in which he says shooters mistook his brother-in-law for Sadat. His brother-in-law was injured, and another man was killed just outside Sadat's parents' home. The court documents outline a life of alleged criminal activities, including Sadat's alleged involvement in kidnapping and robbing a drug runner twice. He was charged in 2015 with kidnapping, forcible confinement, and assault with a weapon. In denying Sadat's bail on those charges, the judge quoted what he called a chilling conversation between Sadat's wife and co-accused brother, in which she says, if the kidnapping victim doesn't drop the charges, then they want to get rid of everyone involved permanently. The judge also said the public would be shocked if Sadat was released on bail. Given the matters described by Sadat on wiretaps involving shootings, bounty, faking deaths, the potential for further violence looms large. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, we'll learn how one orchestra conductor came up with the idea for a face mask that is music to your ears. That story after the break. Well, instead of letting mask wearing get in the way of beautiful music, a Hungarian orchestra conductor has come up with an unusual acoustic adaptation.
I was first thinking of simply something fixing it which is a little bigger, but then later I got to this idea that it should look like a hand, because when we put our hands here, music sounds much more beautiful.
The idea came to Fisher, looking out on an audience that still came to enjoy music while complying with health and safety recommendations. His innovation, 2 plastic cups shaped like hands, attached to the mask strings that fit around the ears. They make for a warmer, sharper sound, and his acoustic masks are catching on. Audience members say they make a world of difference. Round of applause for that. And that's our show for you tonight. Tomorrow we're preempted for hockey playoffs, but we'll be back here on Friday at 11. See you then. Good night, everyone.